Hey guys, Doug Lorcana here, back with another YouTube video. Today we're going to be covering what I believe to be the Week 1 tier list for Disney Lorcana's competitive metagame. We've already seen, as of recording this, we've already seen one major tournament have their results. It was the 8-case tournament in South Florida at SSG, Southside Gaming. We saw Green Steel take that and have a good presence. We saw a decent presence from Amber Steel, Red Purple in the finals, Green Purple in top 8, Cherna Dog's deck in top 8. A decently wide metagame. But I think based off of that, there are a few things we can take away, like how successful Green Steel was at the event. How successful certain decks are into the winning deck, because obviously the deck that's going to win the event is going to become more popular just as a result, even if it isn't the best deck. And yeah, I kind of just wanted to go over what I think to be the tier list for the metagame. Are we in a tier 0 format with Green Steel beyond the horizon? I'm not sure. Personally, I don't think so. I think it's too early to tell for sure. There's some decks that perform very well into it. For example, Green Purple. You can bounce your Ursula Deceiver with bounce package. You can just have Ursula Deceiver. You can play Cloud Kicker to bounce their Ursula Deceiver Vol and their Diablos. You have Evasives to fight their Diablos. If you bounce with Kit and then wait, and then they replay Diablo a turn later, you can wait a turn and then Elsa. Or if you're on the play, you just Elsa. It's just really, there's answers to it, for sure. A major counter to Green Steel, though, right now is Green Steel itself. I'll go deeper into it as I add these to their respective tiers. First, we're going to start off with the D tier color combinations. The D tier color combination. And that's just Amber Sapphire right now. Amber Sapphire can play super aggro stuff, but honestly, why would you play Amber Sapphire aggro over something like Diggy Diggy Hole? Why would you play Amber Sapphire aggro over something like Kiwi Birds? It's just not quite there. There are two more decks that I really considered putting in this tier, which I'm actually going to just put into C tier. Actually, technically 3 more decks that I'm going to put here. We have Ruby Steel, which is going to go to C tier. And the problem with Ruby Steel is... Actually, Ruby Steel might be B tier. It's really hard to tell. It depends on how high tier the rest of it is. I'm going to probably do a little shuffling later, but for now, Ruby Steel is in C tier, mostly because a lot of its lines are very disruptive. It's very weak into steel decks, ironically, because they can just... steel song-based decks, because they can just remove whatever your setup is. It's also pretty weak with reach into red-blue items, because you just, a lot of the times, can't go fast enough. You can run a Namari Maximus combo, but you're not going to be able to play both at the same time. So you kind of have to hope your Namari sticks, then drop Maximus. That's kind of a form of reach. You could also go a little more aggro based with like Flynn Rider and stuff like that, but the issue with that shell is then you just lose even harder to the rest of the metagame. And yeah, I think it has potential though. I haven't done too much testing with it. I've got like a deck running with Li Shang, Medallion Waits, Desperate Plan, that kind of stuff, and it's felt really good in testing. But like, consistency is key, and also how it does in the metagame is also very relevant. I think it does have legs into Green Steel, but I'm not very sure like how it does into the rest of the metagame. So because it's a relatively new color combination, like 2 sets ago you would be ridiculed for playing this deck, but now it's actually pretty playable. And then the next color combination that I'm going to bring into C tier is oh my goodness, where is it? Amber Ruby Mufasa. And mostly this deck will definitely, like, there are some formats. This is one of those decks that just super lose to certain deck deck archetypes. Like, this deck is awful into discard. You play a discard against this deck, and you just auto-win the game. And that's why I'm putting it in C tier, because, surprise, green steel Beyond the Horizon is S tier. And if that's taking up a big chunk of the metagame, playing Mufasa, or even if it's Amber Ruby Songs, you're going to have a huge problem playing in this metagame. Not to say the deck's bad. If you play in a local scene where no one's playing discard, this Mufasa's probably like A tier. It's a very good deck into purple decks. It's a very good deck into mostly just purple decks. It's good into blue steel as well. They can't really keep up with your board. It's decent into aggro as well. If you are running the Mulan package, you can slow them down a bit. But yeah, right now in the current metagame where green steel's dominating with discard, you're going to have a rough time playing this deck. And then another deck we're adding in here is, where'd it go? Emerald Ruby. Now, there's a bunch of archetypes for this deck. Like, you could play a Robin Hood Sharpshooter version. You could play a discard version. You could play a weird Damage Matters version. The problem with this deck is the only thing going for it right now is it has the strong green cards. But as of right now, every other green ink combination does the green cards better. You're kind of doubling down with the same archetype, kind of similar with Ruby Steel. You're hyperfixating on removal with both of your colors, and it leaves you nothing for utility. You don't have things like, in green-blue, you have ramp. In green-steel, you have, it's also double removal, but you have songs in green-steel that you can play. You have, which pairs well with the muses. In green-yellow, you have things like Kita. You have things like Ariel for finding your songs. You have singers. You have Under the Sea for board wipe. In green-red, yes, you have board wipe because you have Be Prepared, but it's hard to get that out because you have to get a 7 ink. Kita Under the Sea you can play on turn 5. Yeah, it's tough for green-red to get there, but it is discard. So the way I'm just defending this is you could play green-purple discard, you could play green-blue discard, you could play green-steel discard, or you can play green-yellow discard and have more success a lot of the time. Like, for example, green-red probably does a little better into green-steel than green-yellow does because you have access to things like Teeth and Ambitions and Brawl, and green-yellow doesn't really have those answers. But the rest of the metagame, like, green-yellow has You Have Forgotten Me. It has more hardcore discard cards. So, yeah. Don't want to spend too much time on the color because there's definitely potential. It's also in the same category as Ruby Steel, where it's like it hasn't been developed super hard right now. Again, 2 sets ago you'd be ridiculed for playing. Even last set you'd get ridiculed for playing Ruby Steel. But Ruby Steel discard, it got a few good tools this set, so it's actually pretty playable. But it's just, why play this when you could be playing a different deck that does the same thing better? Moving on, and our final... moving on to the B tier. We've got Amber Amethyst Hyper Aggro. Or you could also include that Monstro deck in here. The Monstro deck would definitely be down a notch. The Monstro OTK deck with Donald Duck and Monstro and Alanadale. The issue with that deck is, in a discard meta, you're never really getting the cards you need in your hand and keeping them healthy enough. And that's unfortunately the situation. We're in a discard meta with Green Steel playing discard, even Steel Song playing some discard if they're running the Beyond the Horizon package. Green Yellow being relevant with discard as well, and Journey Dogs. Right now I'm putting it in B tier only because aggro can just win games sometimes for you. And it will always be kind of that average litmus test for a deck. This can beat any deck that's being too greedy, and it can beat any deck that isn't prepared. So it'll always be, in my opinion, right on the middle of the axis because it's the best hyper aggro deck combo. The most aggressive hyper aggro deck combo, and it's just always kind of be in middle of the scale. Yeah, it can get there against Green Steel, not always. It can get there against Steel Song, not always. And then everything else, it gets there quite frequently. Maybe not Green Purple either, or Purple Steel if they have like Calhouns and stuff. But yeah, this is for the Hyper Aggro though, specifically the Monstro deck. It's really fun, and I think it definitely has a place if your meta game isn't discard heavy, but in a discard heavy meta, you're not getting that combo off. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. Moving on, we have Blue Steel, and I'm putting Blue Steel here partially because I'm not, if you know me, you know I don't play a lot of Blue Steel, so I could be just completely talking right out of my butt right here, and saying, oh, Blue Steel's not that good, and all of a sudden next week Blue Steel wins a big tournament because I'm not really fully knowledge in it. But what I do know is Kiwi Birds is a good aggro deck, and there's also that Mama Odie deck that is running around there that is pretty decent, and it also has those songs that can kind of keep Green Steel in check. Yeah, it also can run Grab Your Sword, which is good into Prince John. The main issue is you got to survive the discard. I might even try and put this in A tier. It's definitely higher tier than Hyper Aggro. I should probably rotate that just for showing. But yeah, it's a lot of the times the deck loses to itself as well, which is really painful. If you want to take a deck to a tournament, you want to take a deck that you feel consistent with, and you feel like you could always have a chance at winning it across multiple rounds of gameplay. And Blue Steel, in my opinion, just isn't quite that at the moment. Kiwi Birds can do that. It's a lot more consistent, but the issue with Kiwi Birds is it's kind of aggro, and you don't kind of control your own game with aggro decks. You're not usually dictating what's going to happen. You're not usually in control of the results as much as you are with a mid-range or a control deck. A lot of the times, aggro decks, yes, the pilot does have to play it right, so I'm not discrediting aggro deck pilots in any way. I'm just saying that a lot of mid-range things and a lot of control-based decks and matchups, they're a lot more skill-oriented in the sense that across probably 10 games, the better player in those matchups is going to win. But aggro, it's not always the case. So I wouldn't take a lot of aggro decks to tournaments for that reason, because I could just lose to my control opponent having the cards they need a lot of the time. And vice versa, like my opponent could just win because they out aggro me and I'm not finding my tools as a control player. But it's good to have these aggro decks in the format. It keeps a lot of decks honest, or else we just see red-blue dominating every meta, because aggro decks do keep that in check, and I'm super grateful for them for that reason. But yeah. Next we have, what else would I put B tier here? Blue-green here. Both the items deck and the bounce deck and down the Dino deck. Dino deck is definitely worse than the control version, mostly because of the prevalence of green right now. Dino obviously just gets rolled by green because they could just play Ursula Deceiver on turn 2 and laugh and steal your down in New Orleans, and you're just kind of sitting there crying. But it's definitely fun. There's also the more control version that has some legs into Green Steel because you have access to Ursula Deceiver and Kit Cloud Kicker and more bounce. But yeah, the main issue with Green Blue right now is lack of draw outside of Clarabelle Engine, and if you don't see Clarabelle, you kind of just ought to lose the game. You could also go a more discard focused shell, which would give you another draw avenue, but then you're kind of missing out on a lot of the ramp with doing that, so you may as well just be playing Green Steel if you're not going to be opting to ramp, or Green Purple, or Green Amber Green. this card, because if you're not utilizing the ramp in your green blue deck, then what are you doing? There's just play a different thing. It's same issue as green red. But I think green blue has more legs into a lot of the more mid-rangey purple decks and red blue. But actually, maybe not. Honestly, green blue might deserve to go into C tier. I'm probably going to drag it down. The more I talk about it, the more I think, yeah, this deck is kind of running into the same issues as green red is. And if I'm putting green red into C tier, green blue kind of also belongs there. But in a different kind of meta, green blue probably does fit into B tier. But yeah, for now, I can't justify putting it B tier. Moving on, we have, I think that does it for the B tier decks. Yeah, the rest of these decks do super well into the metagame. So I don't see, none of these really belong in B tier. Moving on to A tier, we'll just go to S tier actually right away. And that's, in my opinion, Green Steel and Steel Song. They both have access to deal with each other's boards relatively well. Green Steel has Ursula Deceivers and things like Sudden Chill to get rid of their songs when they're trying to use it. But Steel Song can also kill Diablos relatively easily. If they don't get disrupted, they can kill a Deceiver of All on curve. Part of the issue, though, is Prince John Muses. Those are really hard to deal with. I think Green Steel can definitely have the upper hand in a lot of those scenarios because they also have access to the Floodborn Pete. But as we saw with shout out to ETB Habibi, who's been playing Sven in his Steel Song list as an answer to that Floodborn Pete. But also Steel Song can run Bare Necessities. Yes, Deceiver can take it out, but you can Bare Necessities there Beyond the Horizon as well, which is nice. I think Steel Song definitely belongs up here in S tier. And Green Steel, as you guys saw if you watched the SSG tournament, if you haven't, highly recommend watching it. Really good gameplay from all the players. The Green Steel champion ended up absolutely dominating with Beyond the Horizon and abusing it with Prince John. Just the fact that you can't take out Prince John because he has ward, and it's in green that has Ursula Deceiver, which can take out Grab Your Sword. Like, how are you going to answer this warded character? It's kind of Bucky all over again, where it's just very toxic to play against, and I honestly can't wait until it's rotated out, personally. The problem isn't Diablo. Like, Diablo has answers. You can use Steel Removal to take him out. You can use Brawl. You can play Cloud Kicker. There's so many answers to Diablo. Prince John, you're kind of narrowed down to, like, Ruby Steel Li Shang, Grab Your Sword and Steel, which is a song which can be ripped by Ursula Deceiver. Pick a Fight, One Last Hope, also a song. Be Prepared, also a song. Big Sisu. Like, a lot of the time, Tremaine's not going to do the work because there's going to be something else on the board. Yeah, outside of that, you're kind of in trouble. And then I'm also going to throw up a green-purple into S tier. I think with the rise of Green Steel, Green-purple is probably the most well-equipped purple deck to fight Green Steel currently. And also, if you play a mid-range control-y version, you can actually take out Steel Song on the play quite frequently. On the draw, you're definitely unfavored still, but I think Green-purple can definitely take it out. And as a result, I'm tempted to put Blurple in S tier right now. The deck is very strong right now. It's favored into Green-purple. It's favored into Green Steel. It's unfavored into Steel Song. It's kind of 50-50 into Red-purple. It's favored into Red-blue. It's Chernodogs it probably does pretty poorly into, but it's favored into the discard deck, I think. Actually, maybe it isn't favored into discard. It doesn't really have a lot of tools. It's probably 50-50. Sorry, green-yellow discard. It's favored into Purple Steel, and just for those reasons, I'm probably going to put it into S tier. It's just super good into all of the top meta picks right now, except for Steel Song and, mostly just Steel Song. That's the only problem it has, and it just got Monstro, which might help with the Steel Song matchup. But yeah, I think Blurple definitely belongs in S tier. As we saw from my teammate Dan Villalobos. Shout out to him. He ended up taking the ETB 3K Invitational for the previous set with Blurple. He dodged Steel Song the whole event. There wasn't a lot of Steel Song there, and he just showed the strength of the deck. He beat so many different decks. He beat Red Blue. He beat Purple Steel in the finals. I believe he took out a Red Purple deck. But yeah, a good run for him, and he just showed that the deck kind of is S tier right now. Yeah, and then we move on to A tier. We've got Chernadogs, which is just probably the best aggro deck in the game right now, the most consistent. Maybe not Diggy Hole. I haven't done a lot of testing or seeing how Diggy does with the new cards, like that new Lady card is really strong, and the Rhino package might be strong in it. But I think Chernadogs definitely has some ground. Like it's got a good base, and it's pretty solid. It only improved as well. I'm a bit worried about it into discard though, because discard has, we don't talk about Bruno for the Chernabog. It has, like, most of the deck does get hit by the Muses with a song. It has to, in the current meta, if you're playing Chernadogs, you have to play Kit Cloud Kicker. If you don't play Kit Cloud Kicker, you're going to get rolled by an Ursula Deceiver Vol and Muses turn 4. So you kind of need that card, which isn't a bad thing. Like, you got to react to the meta. But yeah, I think it's as A tier. I think it's a little too fragile to some of the top decks in order to be S tier currently. But it's a very, very strong deck. And then also green yellow discard, I'd even put in A tier as well. It's just super good right now. It has some legs into green steel if you can get your Muses and Prince John before they can. Yeah, I like it. Under the Sea hits the Prince John and the Muses. Green Steel doesn't have access to those cards. They have no way of dealing with your warded characters. Yeah, I think green yellow discard definitely has some legs. Next, I'm going to throw in Red Purple. I think Red Purple is a really good deck right now. The biggest issue with Red Purple is, in my opinion, it's relatively weak into Steel Song. I think the new green steel changes, not having an ability to answer Beyond the Horizon whenever the opponent is playing Prince John into Muses and then sing, is really difficult. You can't do too much about that. It also has Ursula Deceiver, which can disrupt your friends on the other side. And I think if you can deck for those matchups, you can deck for Steel Song and Green Steel, but in doing so, you weaken your Purple-Green and Blurple matchups, which those two matchups, whereas those two decks don't have to weaken their Red-Purple matchup in order to strengthen their Green Steel and Steel Song matchups. Actually, Blurple does, but Green Purple doesn't have to. So yeah, I think for those reasons it's A tier right now and not S tier. But I mean, it's such a consistent deck. It's just a very good deck to be a pilot of because it's always relevant. But yeah, I think it's a really good deck. It got good new tools with that new Medusa and the new Hades. I think both of those cards are very playable, and next set probably will be played post rotation for sure. Yeah. Moving on, we have Purple Steel, which I'll put in A tier as well. It has the steel cards, which can take out the Diablos in green steel and green purple discard and green yellow discard. And then we have its matchup spread. I think it does pretty decently into green purple. It loses to Blurple. It loses to Steel Song, but I think it does all right into green steel and green purple. It does very well into red purple. It beats red purple, and then into Chernadogs, I think it does okay. It doesn't really have an answer to Chernabog himself though, so it's definitely a little lower. This compared to red purple and green yellow, I think it's not quite on their level, but it's also not as low as B tier. I don't think it's low A tier. And kind of similar, but on the other side of the spectrum is Red Blue right now. Red Blue DKP and Red Blue items. DKP is very good, but I think Red Purple does the same things but better. And then Red Blue items, I think, is just too fragile currently to the current popular green decks right now. Those green decks can just decimate the hand. They can run item removal if absolutely necessary. Steel can also run those, and the meta's overall pretty fast, and without the Hiram, you're kind of stuck with dealing with, like, do you want to answer the board or do you want to draw cards? Whereas before you could have done both, kind of. So yeah, it's good though. It can definitely take some tournaments. Its matchup spread, in my opinion, isn't bad at all into most of the A tier and above decks. It's definitely playable. But yeah, I think it belongs in A tier, also because it's a relatively difficult deck to pilot. But yeah, overall, this is kind of what I think is the current metagame for playability in a way. If you want to win, if you really are competitive minded and, for example, want to win an upcoming tournament, I'd recommend taking a deck that's currently in the S tier. If you are already an experienced pilot, though, and you're on one of the A tier decks, I think you are perfectly fine to keep going with that deck. But B, C, and D tier decks, I don't think are quite there yet, and probably need a bit of work to get you some results. But yeah, if you guys have any opinions on this, if you guys think I'm overlooking certain matchups, or if you think that I just am completely wrong on certain things, which is very possible, just let me know in the comments. But if you like this type of content, let me know, and like the video and subscribe. I appreciate all of that help getting my videos a little more popular as a newish YouTuber. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this tier list, and I definitely would like to see your guys' opinions. I want to see what you guys think is the best deck in the format. Do you guys think we're in a tier 0 format with green steel beyond the horizon? I think it's a bit too early to tell right now, but it's very possible. It's definitely one of the strongest decks in the format. Is it the strongest deck? But yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. See ya.